No. Another reversal. There we go. he was going to give North Harrison the reversal, and Braden got right back to having control.
Right, and that's where you're not going to get the
no. Get your legs back. You got 12 seconds. Get control of his hips and ride it out.
Stalemate. First one of those we've seen tonight. A stalemate is when neither wrestler has control and, they're not going anywhere, so they call a stalemate. So North Harrison is going to start back in the bottom position.
First time we've seen someone cover a guy from the left side. Chapa Braden picking up his first win.
Braden picking up a win there. Nice. So like I said, Braden does get that win. Does work out nice for her. So that's a
we thank everyone for coming out for this first home wrestling meet of the season for the Senators.
we're going to have the teams shake hands. And then hopefully we will have Coach Tankersley up here in just a second to be able to talk to him. Great evening for the Senators to come out and have their first home wrestling meet. Probably not the outcome that they wanted overall, but it is an outcome that is a learning process for them.
This kind of takes me back to initially. Josh wrote a great article in the Salem paper talking about what are the goals for the season. Talking to Phillip and talking to Coach Tankersley, what do we hope to accomplish? And both said very emphatically, it's not measuring how many wins we collect at this match or for the entire season. It's about it's essentially about the opportunity being there for our student athletes to take part in something that they didn't have the opportunity to take part in beforehand. And for some of these kids, this is the first thing that they're taking part in on a varsity level. We talked about it specifically with a couple of people, Isaac Lang and Jude Livers and some other guys that maybe participate in stuff in the fall only. Maybe they're cross-country runners, maybe they're football players only. But this is another outlet for them. We truly believe a kid is going to be more successful in our school the more involved they are. And that involvement can come through FFA. That involvement can come through sports. It can come through joining a wrestling team. And we want there to be plenty of offerings so that we can get close to that 100% mark of involvement in extracurricular activities.
Right, and that's something that is great. For, like you said, some of these boys who don't participate in other things, but then also for some of the ones who participate in lots of other things. The Packwoods, they do football, they do wrestling, they do baseball in the spring. They're active in FFA. All kinds of different things. So it's a whole realm of everybody, whether it's people who are involved in lots of stuff or people who are not involved in something, and this is the thing that they're choosing to be involved in.
And the other thing we talked about this before, as far as challenging yourself as an individual, there's no other sport like it.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that draws me back to it is we talk about all the time. Employers may say, we want people that hold themselves accountable, that have their own personal motivation.
There's
and
no
responsibility.
There's no better way than the wrestler on a wrestling mat, because not only do you have to do that for your individual match, but you have to do that for your team, and you have to do it for your weight.
A cool show of sportsmanship. Both teams out there, first-year programs, getting a picture together.
Yeah.
A pretty neat moment.
Hopefully we can grab a conversation with Coach Tankersley as he's over talking to North Harrison's coach. So,
and this is something you like to see too, right? We always got guys at the end of the basketball game that can't wait to get on the floor and shoot a basket. This is how you grow a team.
yeah.
You got 2 young ones out there right now mixing it up.
One of them happens to be related to you.
Yeah. And I noticed how he picked a second grader.
Well,
Yeah.
but that second grader probably has more mat time than a lot of second graders around.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely a growing thing here at West Washington. You hear, the kids in the elementary school talking about it. They may have an older brother on the team or an older sister on the team, so that's a great thing. But they're definitely looking for the opportunity, and that's just coming from the elementary kids.
Oh man, we're gonna have to teach these guys how to save mat tape.
Definitely.
Roll it up in reverse and get you a couple dowel rods, and we can reuse that stuff.
Yep, that's one of those that you learn very quickly that mat tape is very expensive. It's not just regular tape; it's specific tape for the mat. And the rolls are around $7 to $8 a piece, and it takes 2.5 rolls to do a mat one time.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about $20 to put the mat down, and what these guys are going to do is they're going to roll this mat up, they're going to take it back to the speed training room, put it back down, and retape it again in there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that tape could have been used again to save the mat in there. We may grab Coach Bausman and put him on here to talk to him a little bit about how he thought the wrestling thing went. So
Hey Philip.
Hey Philip.
Philip. You want to come here? I'm going to ask you a question or two.
Give me just a second to get him hooked up here.
Yeah.
Still on. Okay, there we go. You hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
We're joined by Coach Bausman, who is our athletic director. First thoughts on your first wrestling meet that you've ever hosted here at West Washington, first one in school history.
It was pretty awesome. It took a lot of planning, a lot of choreography when you talk about music and lighting and that kind of stuff, which makes it just that much more exciting. And we had an experienced official here tonight that talked about more or less the production of it tonight, and said I would do it like that every single time, not just because it's your first, but every time. So that was interesting, and an amazing crowd, great crowd for the first time. And maybe it won't be like that every single time, but we hope it will be. But it brought a lot of people out. You saw a lot of athletes out here that you might not normally see competing in an athletic setting, and I think that's something this sport brings, is it just opens it up to a whole new avenue of kids.
Definitely a neat experience. I've wrestled thousands of matches in my lifetime, and I've only wrestled under a spotlight in a darkened gym twice. So, a great experience for these guys, their first home wrestling meet, to be able to do that. The sport, definitely is a different kind of sport, because it's not only an individual, but it's also a team sport all at the same time. These guys came out tonight and weren't able to, tally a team win, but many individual victories through the night.
Yeah, whether it was an individual victory within a single match, or just from points being scored. Maybe they lost the match, but was able to accumulate a lot of points throughout the match. So there was a lot of there's lots of variables to success, I think, in wrestling. This is something totally new to me. I couldn't. When they wrestled the 2 minutes, I thought that was it. And then we go into a second and a third. So a lot of learning for me as well, and for the fans. We printed off facts to know about wrestling to put up there for people to get when they came in. And I think it just teaches a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and then it shows that you got to be technically sound. And that's just something these guys will see progress as they get better throughout the year, and then guys that will continue to wrestle from year to year. And I just think the mental side of athletics is very tough, and this is definitely a mental sport.
Yeah.
It one of the better matches, and one of the situations where I'm proud of all the guys, but really proud of an individual wrestler. Didn't end up in a win, but it ended up in a situation where he fought through 6 minutes, and I don't know if he knows this or not, but he gave up fewer points to the opposition team. When you're out there wrestling, if you go to your back and you don't have fight, and you take that pinfall, what you've done is you've hurt your team by 3 points. And Charles Madden went out there and wrestled a very strong kid who's seen success on a football field and is a senior in high school, and he's a freshman. And I just can't look at that experience and think about how that's going to benefit him throughout the season and how that's going to benefit him. I mean, the young man's got 3 more years of both football and wrestling to get out there and compete. And tonight, I'm super proud of his effort in that match to go 6 minutes.
Yeah, Coach Bausman, he's one of your football players, and that kind of leads me into my next question for you. You know, wrestling is one of those that the upper weights are definitely tied to, you know, the football, you know, program, and helps learn, you know, how to use your hips and your weight and, you know, be able to move people around. You know, this is going to help your football team, you know, in the future, just based on those guys who are able to be on the mat and learn how to do those things.
Yeah, it's definitely something. Again, it goes back to being very technically sound and using your body leverage. You know, that's a key, and how to utilize that center of gravity, those kinds of things. And you know, Robert Falcons, assistant commissioner over wrestling and football, was down tonight, which was another great opportunity for us to showcase not only our wrestling program but our school. And you know, he was very complimentary of our setup, our facilities, and anytime you can bring someone from the IHSA and get recognition inside your building, because he's going to go out and he's going to post things about that tonight. And you know, anytime you can bring those people in, it's just a great you know, marketing thing for us to have them in here, and then they go out and talk about our program. So to have Robert Falcons in tonight was awesome, and him and I sat down here for about 10 minutes and talked, and he, you know, one thing he said, he goes, "This is going to help your football program." And he said, you know, people think it's going to help the linemen. He goes, but I'm telling you, it's going to help your skills. And he wrestled, and he was a football player. And he said, your skill players are going to benefit as much as anybody. And, you know, I remember Ricky Baker was wrestling at that time. And I said, he's a football player that's, you know, right now he's still got to get some things, you know, fundamentally as far as maybe a little rigid on things. But he's a good, strong, athletic, fast kid. And he said, I can see it, him wrestling. Right now he's just using sheer strength with some, you know, technical skills, and he said he'll only get better at that, and that will transfer over. So, you know, every guy that wrestles and plays football is going to benefit from it.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's one of those things that not only the wrestling and the football, but you know, the lower weights, you've got a lot of cross country kids out there. You know, kids who you know, are involved in, you know, other sports. You know, it's great for them, and you know, it's a program that you've brought to West Washington with the help of you know, Mr. Nance and, you know, Dennis Tankersley, the head coach, you know, that's gotten kids who aren't involved in stuff in and involved. So
yeah, I think it's an awesome opportunity. Anytime we can open another avenue for the students here, and maybe students outside of our building that say, hey, you know, they've got this, and this, and we want to be a part of that program, that school, and you know, maybe we get some you know, enrollment from that. So at any rate, you know, our focus when we do this kind of stuff is to allow more opportunities for kids to succeed and to have you know, ownership to something. And you know, there's a lot of studies that indicate being involved in extracurricular, specifically with athletics, that it makes for a better student in the classroom. So this is just another avenue, and you know, we're blessed to have it. We're blessed to have a school board and administration that supports it. And you know, this thing, you know, we've been talking about it a little bit, but then when it got to the beginning of this year, it went real fast, and it's here, and just an awesome opportunity. And you know, Coach Tankersley's a great leader, and he's got good support coaching staff and great numbers out. So it's definitely jumped off the ground and taken off and running.
Definitely. That's what it takes. It takes numbers, and it takes the people who want to do it, and that's
right.
That's what West Washington has here. So
Thanks.
We're gonna get Coach Tankersley on here. Let him get his headphones on so he can hear Coach Tankersley. You know, first home wrestling match here at West Washington. You know, you've been part of other programs around. What'd you think first time?
It was good. It was eye-opening. You know, they're a tough squad. I mean, being first year wrestling program, first year coaching staff, you know, they were a little rough around some edges too. We were good in some areas, honestly. Conditioning was a little bit of a factor. I plan on taking care of that since I'm the cross-country coach. They're going to love me for that. So, but yeah, there were some things, you know, some kids that I see that was wrestling tough, especially later on in rounds. And you know as well as I do, those later rounds in wrestling, I mean, that's when you can make or break a wrestling match.
Yep.
So.
There were a couple of cases where as the match went on and we got closer to that 6-minute mark, that we got better and they got weaker.
It was apparent.
And
yeah, absolutely.
so it was very nice to see some of those guys really gut out the 6 minutes. And from going a couple Saturdays ago and watching them wrestle and then seeing them wrestle here, there were certain marks of improvement that were very obvious to see. One of the most impressive matches I thought was Charles battling through 6 minutes of a match.
Absolutely, with a senior nonetheless.
And that's what we said when they stepped out there. You know, Charles is a competitor, but you can physically see the physical maturity of one guy and the fact that the other guy is a freshman, and that's not a discredit to Charles. I mean, he's a competitor, works very hard, and he's going to look a lot like that kid in 3 years.
Absolutely.
But he battled and battled and battled. Very impressive match.
He came out of that too. You know, sometimes after a loss, some people come out and you can see they're just defeated, you know, mentally and physically and emotionally. He was proud of himself after that match. I mean, he was obviously a little mad at himself for losing the match, but it was a hard fight, and he was doing things that made him look like a wrestler.
Yeah, he had one opportunity where he had him stuck in a possible pinfall.
Absolutely.
And the guy was just able to get that arm in between him and belly out.
And he's crazy strong. He matched up strength-wise, I think, with that kid pretty well.
That's going to lead us into our wrestler of the night, which Coach Tankersley probably didn't know that we were going to name, but you already did, not knowing it. It's going to be Charles Madden tonight. Even though he didn't come away with a victory, you know, he was able to battle through a 6-minute match with a senior, and you know, was able to, you know, keep the team score closer than what it could have been had he given up early in the match. So Charles Madden is going to be our wrestler of the night tonight.
Awesome.
So you can let him know that once you see him. Actually, he's right there, so you can go catch him and let him know that he's the wrestler of the night. But thank you, you know, Coach Tankersley, for letting us cover your first home wrestling meet here. It was definitely a blast, and you know, I'm glad that West Washington has wrestling. So
absolutely, I appreciate you guys coming out and streaming this, and everybody that tuned in to watch it. That's a great thing, and I appreciate you doing this, and the fans that came out to support us. There was a lot of people here that didn't have a tie to the match, to the people on the team. So thank you for them coming out and watching, supporting.
Yeah. So thank you, Coach Tankersley, and with that, we're going to wrap up our broadcast of West Washington live stream. Once again, thank you for your support, and always, you know, spread the word about being able to watch the wrestling and, you know, the basketball and all the things that we stream live. Final thoughts, Keith, about tonight?
Just the way our guys came out and competed. You got to be proud of that. It is an eye-opener for guys that have only been wrestling a short period of time. It was obvious to me that they had a couple of kids, at least the captains on their squad. There were about 3 of them that you could tell had a little more mat experience than even some of the guys on their own team. Just proud of these guys for accepting the challenge. You know, it's one thing to say, yeah, you know, I think I could wrestle, but it's another thing to go out there and toe the line. When you're doing it, you know, there was a great crowd here tonight, and every set of eyes are on you.
Yep.
It's a different type of environment, and these guys, like I said, they towed the line, they stepped up, and you got to be proud of them for coming out and competing the way they did.
Definitely very proud of these guys for coming out. So West Washington live stream will be back in action Thursday as we have a girls basketball game at Eastern. We will travel to Eastern to stream the game there.
A fun team to watch.
Yeah, definitely a fun team to watch with our girls and their girls. You know, they are coming off a state championship, and we've got girls who like to get up and down the court, so it'll be a fun one to watch. We should be live around 7 o'clock, and we hope to see you then. Thank you very much.